So, welcome back to our one of the final classes talking about the current topics in management. As you know, we've gone through um, several different weeks, and you're aware of how the marking is. It's outlined here. What we have talked about with week 1, week 2, week 3, this file has been shared with all participants. The PPT is here. Scopus articles related to the topic are here. Related videos are here. The class videos are also here. And if you go to YouTube, you can see every one of the classes we've had is recorded, and you can review these for your love of the class if you want, or to review details that we've talked about in class. The big thing that I think many of you are interested in is the marks. All of you should be aware of these marks. If you want special details related to this, you can ask. It's probably best to go into the final details outside of class. For example, some of you have come to me and we've talked quite a bit of this green area or the red area. That was week 7, where everyone has to do a research project. So every one of you has a collection of papers. You should have been sharing with the class a folder that looks like this. Inside here, you'll have the PPT and you'll have an actual research file. Here is the PPT of presenting details from week 7. Every one of you should have been able to have something like this. If you haven't shared the link to this, I haven't recorded a mark for you guys. So some of you need to make sure you've shared a link to this. Gregoire, I think you are one of them that I think you presented, but you didn't share the link. So you're not in class anyway today. I guess it doesn't make too much of a difference, but every one of you needs to be able to present something like this. Why? Because you have something like this, and you have, first of all, you can see my screen, right, Hyanakdo? You can see what I'm presenting now? Can you read to me what I'm presenting, Hyanakdo?
This whole one, I mean?
No, just the introduce what is this that you're looking at.
Mm.
I want to
This
make
is
sure students are aware of the significance of what I've been doing.
this is actually the I mean, how to say it? It's like it shows the form of like the paper, how to write a paper.
Oh, okay. And this exact example, can you read the title and try to tell the world, since we're on video, why these students wrote this paper and perhaps how they wrote this paper. If you can skip through. Oops, it's not showing everything. But at the end of this presentation, you will recall they have this small section. So you can talk a little bit about this. And then after this, you can introduce what I'm showing now and how it all links together. And since you are one of the students that is going to be presenting the file, I want you to be aware of what is the design of the class? What is the design of WISE work for students? So if you want, do you want to start by introducing what I'm showing now?
Um,
Is it a piece of chocolate cake? No, it's not a piece of chocolate cake. Let's try to get past the Korean uncertainty avoidance and start guessing. Um, so, Jungwoo, can you tell the class what we're looking at now? Generally, what is this?
Uh, this is the paper which explain about the power of social media.
Great. Is it a low quality paper? Is it a high quality paper? Is it just a student's paper? You can see here, this is one of the authors, and they're actually a professor in Europe. Here's another professor that wrote it, another researcher that wrote it. So, and we have actually gone through and we've checked through this Scopus file as a hint. So can you comment on that? Like, how good of a paper generally is this?
I think if this paper is updated in Scopus, I think this paper is reliable, I guess.
Good. So it's very, very reliable. And thank you very much for that. We've actually gone through and we've talked a lot about this. We'll talk about this later. Somebody in class needs to ask about this later. But you can see here that you said it's a Scopus paper. Yes, it's a Scopus paper, but it's also SSCI. SSCI is actually higher quality in general than Scopus. And that is shown right here. It's not usually shown, but the students added that to it. So it's an SSCI paper, impact factor of 2.8. It's good. They went through, and one of the best things about this is these researchers, they found every researcher generally in the world that researched social media and how it can predict the future and problems with social media predicting the future. Here is one researcher, here's another researcher, here's another researcher. And then now can you go back and tell the class, what is this? Hello? I guess I found a new exam question. Everybody in the class listening. I've talked about this. I would
can
say,
answer.
Great. Go ahead.
Can I answer?
Yes.
So the previous Scopus article you showed about the research on the media is by a reliable source, and the right now what we are seeing is students that changed it and used it for L'Oreal Cosmetics. So they used it as their research paper, and they changed. They used most of the information that was given on that paper, and then they used it to show it to L'Oreal Cosmetics. Am I getting it right?
Yes, that's almost exactly what I was looking for. One of the classes we talked about your investment for success, and we weren't just talking about money, we were talking about several things. One of the things I was saying is surround yourself with people that are better than you and try to work the same as the specialists in that area. So these students, just like any first-year students or any students almost anywhere around the world, they found researchers that are the best in marketing around the world, and they've created their work style doing the same thing these other researchers did. The other researchers made a paper, so they made the same style and format of paper. Anybody in our class that is creating and handing in a paper, you should show what is the paper that you've liked and you are trying to replicate the style and format. It can be a Scopus or SSCI as long as it's a good quality one. And yes, they have to make sure some details are different. So they've changed it from European marketing to Korean marketing, and more specifically on L'Oreal. Why? Because they were interested in working with this company. And during the middle of the term, the students were able to show details just like this this folder show many very valuable Scopus articles or SSCI articles, each one of these something like $50 each. They're able to show some good valuable main points to the company to help the company. So the student is a specialist helping the company, and then by putting it together in a fancy presentation, you look more professional, but having it actually in a written article, you look like a very high-level specialist, and you've changed it to fit your needs. And so these students went through the same thing. They had an abstract that is teaching something new. You have to make sure that you're not just generalizing things. If you want to be a specialist, teach something new as a specialist, and then introduce the background of why that thing is important and how you're doing it, the literature review, what all the other world experts are generally saying. Not all the other world experts, but at least 7, or usually I say 10 research specialists are saying around the world what they're saying. So you can say, you can show that you are aware of what's happening around the world. And then these students went on and they've copied quotes from people they've interviewed. Here is an interview from executives in L'Oreal and executives in SAP. They're interested in both of those companies, so they use this as an excuse to get in touch with the company they wanted to work with and show valuable information. And these are actually quotes from them. And right after they did that, they were able to get an internship, and these students were able to get a full-time job. And mostly it was because of this chart. And this chart, just like the other experts showed below, the chart shows almost every other researcher in the world talking about the benefits of social media, predicting the future, and the challenges of social media. And they have just added more of these yellow new areas or new quotes from new research projects in Korea or for L'Oreal. So that's something that we should be aware of. The format is like this. So when you're presenting, this format looks good. So again, we've gone through, we've seen the marks of everybody participating. You can still get more marks for not only sharing things that may help with a research article that might be able to help some of your classmates that are still developing, or a research article related to the class that is still helping. You can present some of that to get more bonus points. The people that are still in red here with your student number, you need to make sure you provide the link. So we have not only this PPT of the midterm, but we need to have your link to your files of the work that you've been doing. So share that with us. And the same thing, the people that are presenting their final papers at the end need to make sure we have this too. So Hanakto, you were one of the first that we were talking about. You wanted to present this week. We need to have your link to your folder that looks like this with your final research paper. And so eventually when we go through, I'm going to skip through a little bit of this, and we've seen this. You can email it. Some of the students have emailed this. If you click on this, you can open it up and you can see this is the document where you can share your materials. Everyone in the class that wants to do an exam. I haven't seen all of you that have emailed me this yet. Some of you have, but not all of you. Anybody that does want to do the exam, you need to be able to send the Google Documents to me so that I can see when you're writing on it, so we can do an online exam together. And Vincent, what are the other rules that we need to follow for doing an online exam? I think
camera on and mic on.
Right. Make sure that your mic is on so that if I ask you a question or send you a text or a chat during the exam, you need to be able to answer it quickly. If for some reason it's not working, then that means I can't supervise you during the exam, which means I can't officially evaluate you during the exam. So we'll have to take your exam marks from there. So if you want the full time period to do the exam, make sure you send me a Google Documents like this and tell me that you're going to have the video working for the full 1 hour or 2 hours or however much time you want to complete the exam. And unfortunately, one uncomfortable aspect is you need to maybe not have too much coffee, not have too much to drink beforehand, and go do your business in the private room before class, because you're not able to get up and leave the microphone during the exam. We have several different possible exam questions that some people have. I've seen from some of the students here, there's lots of possible questions. We can go through that later on today. I just wanted to make sure that the details that we've gone through for the class are basically understood. So, any questions about what we've said so far? Arthur, is that clear for you?
Yes.
Okay, and I understand, Arthur, you're going to be doing both the paper and the exam. So one of the possible exam questions I will give to Zarnigar to talk about this. Zarnigar can get ready to answer questions for the exam about this chart. But for Arthur, can you explain the 5 steps that a student can take for wise, efficient work, as opposed to students that just do hard work, only do step 1? So can you explain, Arthur, what are these 5 steps, and specifically include grants, what that means? Go ahead, Arthur.
Do you mean for applying for a job or something like this?
I mean, explain this chart that I'm showing now, and I've showed many times, and it shows step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, so for the grants, it's because you talked about grants, it's basically like to apply for the grants to get a company interested in a project and maybe get some money to make a project become reality. And about so the multinational company and other companies, one of the interesting thing could be doing a research paper to get them interested in your profile and maybe get an interview and also feel like that to apply for an internship or maybe a job. Also, working efficiently means doing good job with the research paper by using some Scopus articles and using some interesting information, not only web found information.
I guess that's step 1 that you're talking about. Fine, the
Yeah.
students have to write a paper, yes.
And
step-
actually, I don't remember precisely the rest. I remember.
Can you see the step 2 here at the bottom? Anybody want to jump in and help? What is step 2? And then up here is step 3, and then step 4.
Step 2 is to get into local companies to get some help from employers and I don't see precisely. Yeah, it's to get some help from local companies in which we are interested to work in.
Kind of. You've kind of twisted it around. You're talking about the right words, but the actual step of what you should be doing is kind of twisted around. Fahim Malik, are you in class today? Is Fahim? No, he's not.
Yes.
Oh, yes, you are here.
Yes. I'm here.
Can you go ahead and help explain the steps 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5? So step 1, as Arthur said, was to write a paper and make sure you have good references, reliable references like Scopus. Yes. And what is step 2 for the student to do? What should the student do?
Yes. I think we have to publish a research paper with a good journal, which includes in number 3. Number 4 is
What is step 2? We haven't actually described step 2 yet.
oh,
Okay,
step
the
2
first
is about yes.
Yeah, the first step is a student just writes a paper,
Yes.
and they have it for class. but that's
Yes.
hard work, not wise work. So what should a student do that is more wise than just staying in the classroom? What else can they do? What is step 2?
Yes, step 2 is about the employment in local company, like the suggestions, advice, and publicity through the maybe in with uh, social media.
So I don't see what the student is supposed to do. What is step 2?
Should I say it?
Sure, somebody can try to clarify what is step 2 if it's more clear for you.
Yeah, it's mostly making consulting ideas and helping employees at a local company, like seeking ideas or giving suggestions. And after that, they can publish their work, and like it can be
Right,
their
okay, good.
journals.
So, right, now you're talking about 3. So just because a few people were not clear about step 2, thank you. Zarnagar, you were saying that the student is supposed to act as a consultant and take this information that you have, all of these valuable reports, all of this valuable research, all of these presentations that you have created, you give this, where is it here? You give this consulting information to the local companies as a specialist. So you show them that you are valuable and you start developing relationships with them, and you can use the class paper to show off yourself and maybe start working as a intern and make your own internship. And if that goes well, these other students with the marketing for L'Oreal, they actually were hired by L'Oreal in the company, so they got a full-time job. So yes, you present your information, your research paper, and your research details to the company, the local company, because the company is looking for these suggestions. You can, as I think Kanak and some of you guys were saying, they're seeking advice. Yes, the students use the idea of surveying the company for ideas or research. You can use that as an excuse to open the door. You can use that as an excuse to start getting the relationship going and start creating your relationship for an internship or a job. Is that clear? Hyanak Do and Arthur and everybody else that was talking, Fahim, so far, is that clear? What is step 2? How you can get benefit from it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep going, Zarnigar.
Yeah, so after step 2, we come to step 3, which is publishing the journals and the research papers, like, putting them into journals and publishing them. And then step 4 is building the CV, a resume. And then the last step is applying to grants and get a big amount of money at multinational companies.
Good. So you're going to find a professional, a specialist that has done good work in your area. You're going to surround yourself with more of these experts and their style and format of work. You're going to try to do the same, develop your own specialist in that same area. You're going to take lots of your research and be able to go and knock on the door and show this to the company, being able to definitely add value to the company with this stuff alone. And then the idea of being able to continue following up and survey the company what specifically they want, and you can research this. So who was the student that's going to try to explain the significance of this chart? If the exam question is, explain what a student should include in a good research paper, and especially discuss the value of reliable information like Scopus and the valuable use of CNN. Vincent, I see your hand up.
Oh, sorry, I don't listening what you ask.
Yeah, I just saw your hand up, but maybe it was wrong. So can you explain what is the significance of this slide?
It's about what is the most reliable and trust in the what we can find on internet. So, like everyone know, the most reliable it's like Web of Science or Scopus, where we can find all reliable article, and after come the international review about like Journal of Marketing's academic management passive, etc. After this, it's like Fortune, Forbes. It's like the magazine with the most popularity in the world, but they are sometimes not really reliable. And after come
Yes,
the
here's Forbes. At the end of Forbes, it just stops. There's a period and there's no references at the end of Forbes or at the end of Fortune. These are very, very famous magazines, but they don't show any references at the end. Yes, keep going.
after come like the lowest magazine like Times, Economics, if I can say that. And at the end we got Facebook, so because it's not the most reliable sources we can get on internet.
Okay, thank you. That's very good. Does somebody else want to help add a little bit more to make it a little bit more precise? You have talked about this is, I think, what did you say is the most reliable, Vincent?
Web of Science.
Good. Web of Science, or for businesses, SSCI, because we are in the social sciences, Social Science Citation Index. That is usually what many people say is the highest quality, most reliable in our area. Then Scopus, because Scopus has 30,000 different journals in our area, right? And one thing that was a little bit confused is all of these that I'm showing now, they're all Scopus journals. So these are just examples of Scopus journals. And these top 25 that are in Scopus are almost identical. They're in SSCI. So these are also SSCI. So the Academy of Management Annals, number one, the Academy of Management Journal, the Journal of Marketing, Strategic Management Journal. These are the most reliable international journals in international business and management. They are both Web of Science, which means they're SSCI and they're Scopus journals at the same time. Forbes, Fortune, and Harvard Business Review is also Scopus, but they're lower ranked Scopus. They're lower ranked journals because they don't show the references. But one thing I didn't really hear, should you be referencing Facebook or CNN or BBC? If I make the question easier, we go back to this red arrow, and this shows the most reliable are at the top, but dated, and then the not reliable, not as reliable, but new is at the bottom.
I think we can use it, but just for to compare something. For example, we take a news on Facebook or CNN, and after we use like an article of Scopus of Web of Science to show what is like the most reliable, what the most true.
So we can take it and compare it to more reliable sources. That's one thing we can do, yes. What is another advantage of showing this information at the bottom? What is another value of showing this information at the bottom? Gulcano, would you like to guess what is the value, if I ask you to explain the value of CNN or Facebook when referencing in a research paper, what would you say?
Maybe for the public, it will be easy to take the information, to read the article.
Good. Yeah, that's part of it. Yes, that's a good part. Yes. What else? Again, following this arrow, the red arrow. Eloise, would you like to jump in? Why is CNN good? Many people say CNN, BBC, they're terrible. Of course, I wouldn't say that because we're on YouTube and I wouldn't want to be charged. But
I'm saying it because people see this TV, and there are a lot of journalists to work on this TV, and a lot of people think what the journalists say is true, but it's not obviously true because they are not it's not reliable because there are no sources of the information. What the TV say, I think.
so the exam question is explain the value of CNN. And your answer is the value is because millions of people see it. It's valuable because millions of people see it. Okay, that is one of the points, but it's not the main point we're looking for the exam question. Jacovir, would you like to try to explain? Jacovir, are you here? No?
Yeah, Professor. Yes, I'm here.
Okay, please explain the significance of this red line. Why do you use the top and use the bottom of the arrow? The top is valuable and the bottom is also valuable. Why is the bottom valuable? Why do you also use the bottom when making a research paper?
Can I answer again?
We'll give Jacovir a couple of seconds.
Can I answer later?
Okay, that means Zarnigar, I guess you're up again.
Yeah, so we talked about the timeliness. So they are new. They are not reliable, but they are new always.
Absolutely, yes. So these most reliable sources sometimes can take 5, 6, 7 years to create as fast as you can. From cutting edge research to publication, sometimes it takes many years. So they could be old, they could be dated. And when you're making a research project, you don't want just old information. You also want reliable stuff, but new stuff. So you can say that the newest information, what they're saying on Facebook is this. What they're saying in CNN is this. It's what people are saying. It's what they might be believing. You don't know if it's true or false. It hasn't gone through extensive study, but people are saying it. We are talking about the coronavirus right now. And a lot of people are saying a lot of things. We don't know if it's true. A lot of people are saying it's coming from the government sources or it's coming from aliens. I've heard that somebody from the Mars rover and the spacecraft in the Mars planet created it and is trying to destroy the planet Earth. Some people are saying crazy things in Facebook and things like that. So it's new. We don't know if it's reliable, but it is new. Yes. So we've gone through, this is also the format, the most popular, the most respected social science research types. This is the referencing style. We've gone through how you should, when you're doing your research, find the specialist research article like Scopus or in SSCI. For bonus points, I did not try to teach this in depth. It was taught very quickly, but it's not a main part of the class. This says Scopus Q4. Is anybody here aware of what's the difference between Scopus Q4, Q3, Q2, or Q1? Anybody aware of that? No? I won't waste too much time. Basically, it's saying Scopus is divided into 4 different sections, and the top quarter of all Scopus is Q number 1, and then the next lower ranked is Q2, and then the lowest rank is Q4. And so Q4 is probably easier to understand, maybe less very complicated statistics and mathematics, maybe more accessible or relatable for students to do. So if a student finds a Q4, it might be more similar to your style. That's what we were talking about here. What about this red arrow? I believe last class we already talked about this. Adrian, can you explain the significance of this red arrow?
Yes, it's like being proactive and don't be a sheep, like just make some entertainment and initialize the movement.
You're kind of generalizing. This is teaching a student something. What is this teaching a student? What was I teaching you in class when I gave this slide? I told you to do something with the red arrow. What did I teach you to do with the red arrow? Eloise, can you explain what that is?
Yeah, we have not sheep. We need to think by ourselves. We need to for find a good job for us. We need to know follow the people. We need to seeking with our brain, of course, and be a specialist or an expert for be on for add on our resume.
Okay,
For find a job more easily.
So far what you're saying, everyone in this picture are waiting to get a job. Everyone here may think that they are a specialist and apply for the job. Everyone is going to go in and say, I know this job very well. I'm a specialist in this job. Give me the job. So everyone here will go through maybe 4 years of university and then apply to get the job with the employer. But the red triangle is telling you to do something different. Don't, yeah, whoever said, go ahead, Golcano.
I think the most important thing in this slide is the relationship with the company before the graduation and improving their social network pages, especially LinkedIn, professionally.
Okay, so how do you do that? So what I see in this picture is everybody is waiting to apply for a job. Everybody here has probably gone through 4 years of university here in this line, and the second line, they've maybe gone through 4 years of university plus maybe 2 more years for an MBA, waiting to talk to the employer to get a job. But the red line, red arrow is different. So can you explain?
It's investing in yourself earlier at an early age, like, you know, while being in university. It can be also linked into the 5 steps we talked about, getting a grant from multinational companies. So it's something like that.
That's related to it, but not related to this slide. Golcano, I think you were still saying something about that. Like, how can somebody use the classwork to improve the relationship? No?
I think the student tried to contact with the companies,
yes, absolutely.
employers.
Right, absolutely. And so all of these students in color, let's say they graduated their bachelor's degree and have a BA in business administration. They studied maybe 3 or 4 years at university. These people over here in gray with the briefcase, all of these people studied 2 more years for an MBA. So they have a 4-year BA, 2 years for an MBA, and then they're waiting to start applying and start talking to the company to try to start getting a job only after they've graduated. But the red arrow you use to develop the relationship as a student, when, where, and why. Wow, this is very interesting to have this reverse translation, because for me, I've been working with this for 20 years. It's so obvious. I think everybody understands. And now I see that it is different. So what we're talking about is you maybe in your first year of university, or even as a high school student. Anybody can start doing some sort of research, like we said, at any level. Find some good research details, find some good reports just like this. You don't really even need to turn it into a paper, but if you turn it into a paper, you look better. But if you have this valuable information that the company will want, then you can present this in a paper to the company. Before you go to any job, before you go to any internship interview, you must research that organization well. One of the first weeks of class, we were saying you must understand culture. Understand your culture first, and then understand the culture of the other target organization. So if you want a job with this employer, research that company, find out what they're working on, then find research papers that will be attractive to them, make a paper that might help them, and then survey them, share that information with them, get a relationship with them, showing them you're a specialist. Even before you've graduated, you can just give that information to them and they'll be very grateful. And you can say that you will continue to revise and improve this if you want, if the company wants, as an internship. If you keep telling me what you want, I'll keep getting more and more better and better information for you. So you make your own internship. Right, Eloise and Laura? I think several of you were talking about wanting to have a finance internship. So you can create your own internship this way. By having this information, presenting it to the company, and being able to continue to get more information for the company to help them. Even before you graduate, the company will get benefit for them. So you have a relationship, you can make your relationship better through an internship. Does that make a little bit more sense, Julie? Okay. And then how can you almost guarantee you get a job with step 5? Malik? So if you just take a paper and give it to the company, they're happy. If you take many papers and give it to the company, they're very happy. They will probably give you an internship and you have a relationship with the employer. But if you take step 5 that we talked about here, you are guaranteed to get a job. How does that work?
I don't know. I think it's about skill, like something special skill.
Vincent, can you explain more about that?
I think it's.
This is a hint. This is a hint. This is a hint. All of these are part of that step 5.
Yeah, it's when we ask to the international company about what we want to do, like if we got a project, and we can ask them if they want to invest on it with a little speech with something like just a little paper to explain what we want to do, and which, so like we see our name, email, country, and our study, and describe our project with 400 words to be applied to this.
Oh, okay. So the idea is you are a student, you're giving research to the company should be happy. You're researching what they want and giving them more of what they want. So you're giving them lots of these things. You have to be careful because if you just take the information from the university and give it to the company, that could be illegal. But as a student doing it, the student internship project, it's fine. You're doing a student research project at the same time. You're also working with a company. It just by coincidence overlaps. Then you learn about the research, you learn about school and research, and the company benefits from what you learn. Yes. And by sharing what you learn with the company, they get a lot of advantage. So they will take you as an internship pretty much no questions asked. But soon as you do that next step, soon as you get a grant from trillion-dollar companies that are giving away hundreds of thousands of dollars to students for grant projects anyway, you can get $100,000 or $300,000 to hire other experts from around the world to come and give you more valuable advice on what to do for your project. That will be very valuable to the company. So you get these other experts, you can pay them to come make your research better and get a lot of valuable information, give it to the employer with $100,000, $300,000, $600,000 or $1 million you could get as a grant to get the best information and the best people in the world to come help your project. And that would definitely guarantee the employer is impressed because you're helping them and you don't cost the company anything because you've learned how to use a grant, so that the company will give you a job. You're almost guaranteed to get a job in any company you want. If any of you are very committed to getting a job or you're in love with working for a certain company, following this path is a very high likelihood of achieving your dreams. So we're talking about that. What could be an exam question related to this or this or this? Zarnigar, I think you had several exam questions. Would you like to talk about those?
Yeah, of course.
What could be an exam question that we're talking about related to any of this popular stuff we went through in the week 1 and 2?
I guess I made a question about what's the best way for referencing?
Do you remember which question that was?
Yeah, I should also see it myself.
We talked, one question that we had was describe the 5 steps. Yes, that could be an exam question.
Yeah, it's on 7. What's the best and correct way for referencing?
Okay, here, yes. One of the questions there is this, yes. Author and what is the correct way for referencing? Author, and then after the author, you would have the year would be next. So 1, then 7, then number 2, title of the article, and then I guess it's the title of the journal. Something like the publisher. Sometimes the title of the journal is different than the publishing company, different than the publisher, but similar to that. So this question is good, but it's we can modify it a little bit, but close to this. Any questions about how to reference properly in class? No?
No.
Okay, we had several people. Arthur and Fahim Malik and Adrian, Jongwoo So, Hyonak Do, and Yebin and Julie. Any of you want to start talking about your papers, because you need to show your paper before the end of week 15. Presenting it in class, it is smartest to show that in class, get some feedback from the class on how to improve, including the English for the Turnitin. Adrian, are you aware of what Turnitin is?
No.
And every paper through the university, when it is handed in, will be submitted to a software program, and the software will automatically scan all of the internet, all other publications, millions of other files in the internet to find out what files have those same words. And they will identify what is similar between some other publication and yours. And the more similar you have, the more danger you are in of failing. Many professors will not even look at your paper if you have more than 10% similarity. I have seen some papers that have more than 30% similarity and are very good papers. But that was just research that had incredibly long reference section, and each reference was referenced the exact same way as somebody else in the internet. And so all of their references were the same. Nothing inside their essay was the same. So there was no problem. You have to be careful of your referencing. If you have any problems with referencing, your paper will not be checked. Same thing with your spelling. If there's problems with the spelling or the grammar, make sure you check it in advance. So I don't hear. Julie, Yebin, Hyonak Do, any of you guys want to start sharing some of your research first? Malik, Arthur. Malik, you are aware of the way that the research paper should be shown? That idea of what should be usually discussed? What is the typical format of a regular research paper? All of these research papers, what is the typical format of this research paper, Malik?
Abstract, introductions, literature background, conclusion results, and a proper referencing style, like the APA format, and this should be reliable.
Yes, so you start with an abstract. You must teach the world something new, less than 150 words, following what we're showing on the screen now. Then you have an introduction, talking about why the topic is important. What is the problem, the specific problem you are trying to solve, and the background of the study. And then you show the actual background of the research, what other researchers have already found related to it, and the idea of the methods. What is the methodology of what you're researching? Then the results of your survey, for example, and then the conclusion and your references. Don't forget, in-text references consists of what, Malik?
Yes, sorry.
What does in-text reference consist of? You will probably have an in-text reference on every page. Why? What does that have? So here, this is an in-text reference. Here is another in-text reference. Here is another in-text reference. What are these?
These are, it can understand better. So I put these things in after a paragraph.
So you can understand better. Okay, perhaps. What you're showing in your research is what other people say. And this
Yes.
other guy, John, says this, Mark says this, Sally, Susan says this. And so you say, these guys said this. And then after you say what they said, then you can comment on it in your opinion later.
Yes.
So you need to have a reference, in-text reference of exactly where you got that information, where you got that quote, where John or Mary or Sally said something, all of those details. So social media for competitive advantage by these people, it's basically social media focuses more on big data analytics. This is a statement that was created by Rybarski, Wang, and Du in 2013. So basically saying social media focuses on big data analytics. That is one statement. All of these statements. Brand image is very important because it plays a significant role in marketing results, and vice versa. These statements are created by this person, and then the Chang, Fei, and Wang, you should be able to see at the end. Is it, yes, here, Chen, Fei, and Wang. Here, the author's name, the year they wrote it, the name of the research article, the name of the journal or magazine, and then this is optional information for our class talking about the SSCI or Scopus level and when you accessed it and where. What would you have if you don't have this, Hanakdo, if you don't have this website, what would you have? Like this website right here. It's huge. What could you have instead of this?
The DOI.
Right. The DOI. That's the, basically it's a code for this that's usually very short. Date of intent, something like that. Any questions about that? Here's an example of a DOI here. So this DOI equals the same thing as this very long one. Can you guys see this okay on the screen? This short code here equals the same type of thing as this long code here. So let's get back to the class format. So we've gone through several different class topics. We are now in the student presentation or the student review sections. I don't have students, all of the students that want to present your final papers, you must basically share your folder for your materials in advance before you present your paper. And you must present your paper. You can use the same PPT if you want from week 7, but you have to do it properly, sharing this type of information, sharing your folder, sharing your details in advance so we can see this. Let's go through some of the main points that we've talked about here. How about Golcano, can you give me a couple of questions or a question from either the CEO pay? Can you give a question? What was some of the important things that you think we were trying to teach when we were talking about the CEO pay? The smart CEOs select a board of directors, basically a team of specialists, sometimes friends connected in the industry, to advise the CEO on how to run the business. And because the CEO pays them, it depends on the relationship between that advisor, that board of director, and the CEO. That relationship is very important. If the relationship is bad, if you're just friends, then those CEOs have a weak relationship to the board of director. The board of director people have a weak relationship. There's usually 7 to 15 people usually in a company. If that relationship is weak, they can allow the CEO to have crazy high pay. Why? Because the CEO pays those advisors, and then the advisors give the CEO what those advisors think the CEO want, not necessarily what the industry thinks is best, or what the world thinks is best. An example is the Steve Jobs. Sometimes Steve Jobs hired just the absolute best in the field, but those best didn't care about him, and they knew that Steve Jobs doesn't have a business training. He doesn't have a business background. Because he doesn't have a business background, and because his personality is not very good with other people, they fired him. And they brought in somebody else that had a better management background and better MBA training, for example, to run Steve Jobs' company, Apple. But then he ran it into the ground and they started to go bankrupt, and they brought Steve Jobs back. And then Steve Jobs hired people that have the connections and the relationships with him in a different way. So those type of things. Another thing that they were saying is they usually will show the world details of what's happening. For example, in research, they will show they researched 50 different companies, and all these other companies have that same type of CEO example, same type of CEO pay. And they can use that research to show the world these other companies are doing that, so we are doing the same. Since we are better than those other companies, we will be paying more. So what's an example with Tesla? We talked about Tesla. Vincent? Is Vincent still here? Vincent's gone. Jungwoo, do you remember the relationship with Tesla and executive pay, CEO pay? I didn't really understand that. So you were saying cash payment is cash you get from the company. Yes.
Yeah,
And
like
most,
salary.
yes. And most of what Elon Musk get is not cash. Most of it is the shares that he's given. Yes, that's correct. He was given crazy amount of shares in a very complicated agreement that most people don't understand. And if most people don't understand it, they can't really argue it. That's one of the reasons they actually do it that way. And he was actually given $56 billion in compensation, the most ever. So be aware of that. One of the things related to electric cars and self-driving cars. One of the things that I was trying to talk about in this week is the idea of self-driving technology has been around for decades. It's been around for a long time, but we didn't actually use it because people that were in these cars that had the self-driving technology, even transport trucks, were too afraid to be driving at 100 kilometers an hour, 10 centimeters away from another truck driving 100 kilometers an hour. So the drivers actually said it's no good, even though it was robotically perfect for decades. So this idea of the use of technology is now getting to a tipping point. It's getting to an inflection point where people are accepting it, and it's starting to take off quite rapidly. And the idea that companies like Ford and GM and Hyundai usually take decades and decades to grow, and usually they need government support to grow, to be big enough. Now, somebody like Elon Musk was able to, he didn't start the company by himself. He found two other, entrepreneurs. He found two other entrepreneurs that had a car company. Elon Musk liked that entrepreneur's sports car, and he invested in it to grow it. It was for the Roadster. And then when he invested so much in it, he invested in the deal that he would be the CEO. And so somebody else started it, but Elon Musk was able to take this thing that started from almost nothing and grow it very, very quickly to international global fame. And most of his compensation is based on that. If he can make it to something like $250 billion in stock value within a certain amount of time, that's what his compensation is based on. And it's over a period of 10 to 20 years. That type of arrangement is not normal, but it's happening very, very fast nowadays. So the point of the class was to show that the technology's been around for a long time and can be adopted quite quickly now. And things like Elon Musk and Tesla is showing that. Artificial intelligence and machine learning, same thing. What are some examples of artificial intelligence that is being applied now? The idea of the employee-less stores, or these robots like the Sophia robot. Are you guys aware of the Sophia robot? I believe the United Arab Emirates has given a passport to Sophia, a robot, and allows this robot to fly around the world by the robot's self to conduct interviews. So that type of thing, artificial intelligence, machine learning is at a very, very advanced state. Make sure you're aware of that. And we were talking about management needs to learn about these new technologies that are coming, and they're going to be taking a lot of jobs away. A lot of the jobs that are going to be taken away are, for example, in transportation and in things like service industries, like at restaurants, McDonald's service companies. They're losing thousands and thousands of jobs to this AI, machine learning, those kiosk type programs. So for you to be successful in the future, you need to understand the topic of management is how to manage that. The ideas of millennials and Generation Z. Golcano and Zarnibar, were you guys both talking about this, millennials and Generation Z? No? How millennials and especially Generation Z, they are the online generation. People like the baby boomers, people like Generation X before them, they were born without the baby boomers and my generation, we were born without the internet, without email, without the mobile phones. Heck, some of the people born my age were without any phones and without any TVs and things. So now people are born online on the internet all the time. They have access to everything. So management must be able to change. Some of the problems with the Generation Z is what is one of the problems we talked about with Generation Z? We showed the idea of, what was it, Sini Socek. He had a TED talk talking about how the millennials and Generation Z are used to getting everything instantly. What was the rest of his sentence? What's the rest of his talk explaining one of the problems with the millennial generation and Generation Z with employment?
Generation Z is like obsessed with eating a lot.
Obsessed with eating?
Yeah.
Okay,
like they have eating kind of problems.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that, but that's interesting. One of the Okay, what is another problem that we focused on in class? When we went through it in class, I was talking about a different problem that they actually had. Because they're online all the time, they can get anything they want in seconds. When you're watching a YouTube video, if you don't like that first video, you click to the next video in a second. So our class videos have to be good and have to be showing an important feature within at least 15 seconds, if not usually about 5 to 7 seconds, we need to start showing something good. And so they need to show fast results. If they don't get fast results or fast benefit, they feel sad and they feel like the company's not very good. But the way regular work goes on is you usually have to work kind of boring jobs, shoveling dirt for months or years before you understand the company. Hyanakdo, I'm going to have to mute you because you're, or is it Zarnigar? I think we hear your...
No, that's not me.
Okay, there's the background noise. So the idea was the millennial generation and Generation Z, they're used to shopping online. You can get whatever you want in seconds and delivered within hours. And even dating. The idea of dating, in the past, it would take years for a boy to find and date a girl, or years for a girl to find a boy and date start dating. nowadays go through the online dating apps and you could start dating within seconds. Swipe right, swipe left, swipe right. So those type of things have made the younger millennials and the Generation Z used to getting results instantly. So when you're in a job where you have to put in hours and hours, weeks and weeks, months and months of work, they get disappointed with those results. So that is one of the problems, how to manage those expectations. So be aware of that concept. Big data was a very big point. The social media analytics. This is going to be one of my last questions to ask you guys. Can you guys explain how social media analytics works so that social media like Facebook is different than Facebook Insights? Fahim, can you explain that? Can you explain what is the difference between Facebook and Facebook Insights? Fahim, Malik?
Yes, yes, I'm listening.
We are listening to you. Can you answer that question?
Actually, I can't understand the questions.
What is the difference between just regular Facebook and Facebook Analytics? So you know that this is Facebook, right?
Yes, yes.
But where we have it, this kind of thing, where is it? Here, this is Facebook Insights. It's showing how many likes, what's the reach, what's the visits, what's the post, the people. And this type of details here, for example, the Twitter, it's showing of all of the posts you have, this one is the best post, you should do more of this. And this is the worst post, you should do less of that. Can you explain that idea, the difference between the insights?
Actually, Facebook we can use from personal and professional. Like most of us, we are using just like the personal, and so by using Facebook, we can get some more benefits with our professional, like we are doing business or anything for the marketing, or sometimes we can get the local news too.
I don't understand. When you use, so the answer with Facebook, if you post some comment in your Facebook, that's usually seen by your close friends or maybe
Yes.
your family. That's it. It's almost not seen by people that are not your friends or not your family. And so if you're trying to promote a company product, you're not going to get new customers. But if you go to the Facebook Insights, that Insights will identify the keywords that somebody in Switzerland or somebody in Brazil is using, and you can find customers in Brazil or Switzerland or anywhere in the world and show your products to them. It can be linked to the keywords or to the popular trending topics that way. And of course, it's also linked to the ad spending, the ad spend. So we've gone through quite a bit of this stuff. If you guys have any questions, one of the, let me know and we can talk about it